How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to the 1-2. I'm here, of course, with my good friend Olan. How you doing today, my man?
I'm good, mate. It's a great day to be a Chelsea fan.
It is indeed a great day to be a Chelsea fan. I don't know. We might have to get one of those memes with the smiling mask and an angry face, really. But it's a great day to be a Chelsea fan listening to the show because today we are going to do a deep dive into Chelsea's squad, do a little positional breakdown using Enzo Maresca, the new manager's tactics, see who to keep, see who to sell, decide the futures of the players, of the direction of the squad, and go into some transfer targets as well. So I think it'll be a good show for y'all today. And of course, we do have our chief Chelsea expert in house here in Olan Nino himself. Before we get into the Chelsea squad breakdown, we are going to go over a few news and notes from the last week. Today is, of course, July. Time's not going that fast. It's June 5th, 2024. We just had the Champions League final last Saturday. Olan, what do you think of the game?
I think it's pretty much as predicted. We predicted a relatively easy Madrid win. It was a relatively formal occasion for them. Just kind of sit back, absorb as much pressure as you can, and then capitalize on your chances, which they did.
Yeah, I think you did actually predict a 2-0 win with you definitely said Vinicius score. I think you had Bellingham score. He did get the assist instead for Vinicius' goal. The deadlock, of course, broken by the most unlikely of sources with Danny Carvajal from a corner. Not really what you expect, but just watching that game back, especially that first half, I think Dortmund really needed to have scored, capitalize on the chances they had to have made a game of it. I mean, Adeyemi, just some agonizing chances. What do you think? What do you think of Dortmund in that game?
I thought they played really well in the first half, but I think those two misses really got to them. In the second half, you could just tell the pressure was mounting, and that's when Madrid are at their best. They've been there before. I mean, I can't believe Modric, Kroos, Nacho, and Carvajal have now won 6 Champions Leagues, which is just preposterous. So you
Insane,
can
yeah.
tell they've been there before, and Dortmund hadn't.
I think that was the decisive factor. I mean, if the game felt like it was old, felt like a script, that's probably because this is the team that I think you shared a graphic with me earlier. Real Madrid since the year 2000 have won 8 Champions Leagues. They won one in 2002, and I don't think one after that until this run started the 2013-14 season, if I'm correct. But it's just the team that's done it again and again and again. The game kind of had that same old tale kind of feel to it. I felt going over the Madrid side, I don't think too much to talk about because it was all really the same characters. Of course, with the addition of Jude Bellingham. I'm going to go to you about Madrid's newest addition, and that is, of course, Kylian Mbappe, who completed his move to Madrid this finally this week. It is, of course, going to be a free transfer as his contract at PSG will be expiring, but he is getting a 120 million signing bonus. What are your initial thoughts on a move that we've kind of expected, but thoughts on the move now that's completed, is fit, and where really do you see any team stopping this Madrid fucking wagon?
I do think that it's the end of the longest transfer saga ever. We've been hearing about this basically since he broke out of Monaco. I'm pretty sure he had a deal to go to Madrid from Monaco, but he said he wasn't ready and went to PSG. It's a relief for kind of the whole footballing world. Not really so much for La Liga or
Mm-hmm.
teams in the Champions League. Unfortunately, Chelsea is not in the Champions League, so it's not really my concern.
Neither
But
are we.
oh yes, but you are in Europa instead.
Sniped at the last minute, at the death, in Fergie time, shall we say? But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries, mate. I think that really the missing piece of this Madrid side was the number 9. You could tell that it was a bit awkward at times having Bellingham up at that false 9 position, whatever he was playing, even though
Mm-hmm.
he was shifting out to the left wing a lot in the second half of the season and Vinicius was cutting in. I think this will really help their attack. They needed a bit of a focal point. Now, Mbappe is not Giroud. Mbappe is not going to be the guy to hold that play and bring in others into play. But his movements and his incredible pace and his goal scoring, I think, will combine so well with Rodrigo, who's actually a great passer and a great, assister of the ball, let's say, and Vinny, who, in my opinion, is going to be the Ballon d'Or winner. unless Mbappe does something crazy at the Euros. So I think that front three is going to be lethal. They're going to have to drop someone in midfield, have Bellingham in the 10, have, let's say, Camavinga or Chouameni and Valverde in the two pivots. And that's just so lethal. I mean, I can see them three-piecing the Champions League again, can't you?
I absolutely can. I'm glad you went through kind of the lineup behind the front line, because I think last week we only touched really on the front three and where Mbappe would play. Even if you do have to take one of those midfielders out, obviously Cruz is leaving Madrid this year. He's retiring after the Euros. Modric has a year left, but you kind of did see him get phased out. Even if you pick two of those three of that you mentioned, Chouameni, Camavinga, and Valverde, behind Bellingham, they're all so industrious and hardworking that can actually be pretty feasible. And especially with the way we've seen Ancelotti's team set up, this Madrid team set up, they don't really rely on, ball possession, the other team to death, right? It's more in those moments, in those transitions, lethal on the counterattack. And that seems like a team that could feasibly three-peat the champions. I guess it would be the third in 4 years. We did forget the Asterisk Club have one in between the more recent Madrid Champions Leagues. And really, that might be the best transition of all to get in. The biggest piece of news, I would say, from this week was a leak that Manchester City will be launching a suit against the Premier League. To just go over the facts from, of course, it is a leak, the official documents haven't been released yet, but it seems that City are protesting the rules that necessitated independent evaluation of the essentially sponsors that the clubs can sign. City are contesting that rule and saying that the club should be able to set their own price because it is a supply and demand. I don't know we don't need to get into the technicality of the suit itself. Maybe we can a little later, but just overall, how are you feeling about that bombshell that dropped this week?
I have a little tear in my eye, Rahul. I have a little tear in my eye for those poor City fans when they're going to be in League One. Because honestly, what does this look like? This looks like they're guilty. You wouldn't be suing the league you're in,
yeah,
if that's not the case. So I think, when's the hearing? In November.
June 10th. It's
Well,
coming
no,
up in
this
5.
year I meant more so the Premier League coming down on them. I think that's in the autumn.
That's right.
They're going to get spanked. This had to be a last resort that they've had like in their back pocket the whole time. And unless they really enrich in the pockets of anyone, which they very well might, we know how the world works.
We know how Man City work.
We know how Man City works, but I can't see any other solution but them getting a severe punishment.
Yeah, I think to go on the offensive like this, and now to get into the technicality of the leak, to essentially admit your guilt in a roundabout way in protesting that rule. You're saying the rules are wrong, which means you're saying that you did something that, yeah, exactly. You're currently in the wrong, right? But also a few kind of interesting chatter from around the City team that maybe make this timing even more suspicious is that Pep has kind of talked about the fact that he won't be extended his contract after 2025. Kevin De Bruyne just came out talking about how
Saudi.
Exactly. Saudi. Haaland said he doesn't know if he'll be signing a new contract. There is a lot of smoke to that fire that the Premier League is planning to come down very strongly on City for the 115 charges as Olan wipes away what I promise is a genuine tear. Because you have to think from a PR standpoint, pretty horrendous, right?
Oof. I mean, those City fans have already, but if you're a real quote unquote City fan, you've already seen the championship. I hope you're ready to see it again.
Yeah. I think for me, for the longest time, it's been easy not to care about City, both with their lack of actual fans in real in real life, but the fact that really any and every piece of their success comes with that asterisk of them. No, I won't even say oil money, but them bending the rules of the Premier League. there can be a whole other discussion about whether financial fair play is right, but the rules are in place and they have violated them. And to come out with the language in the suit has maybe pushed me over the edge that I've been content to just like sit on for the longest time. Like they have to come down pretty strongly, and I would hope the other clubs in the Premier League boycott City in some way and get this through. It's kind of where my head's at. With
I
that.
completely agree. I think the credibility of the Premier League is at stake, and
Yep.
honestly, the soul of the Premier League is at stake. I don't want to sound dramatic, but are we really going to let this oil money, foreign-owned club just kind of dictate the rules? They're already turning us into a bit of a farmers' league.
Yeah.
I'm starting to understand why, and I don't think the Premier League can back down here at all.
Yeah. I mean, not just oil money, foreign money. This is a nation state in charge of what is currently one of the biggest institutions in England. For them to say the tyranny of democracy is
Ironic.
it's like laughable that like the self-awareness is out the window at that point, right?
Gaslighting at this point.
It's seriously, but part of me still like is aware of the fact that we've seen all these decisions go City's way in recent history. So there are some nerves on my side, but that's perhaps a topic we'll be updating you on as we come out with the show. Of course, the 1-2 will be here every week. A lot of great content coming for you this summer with the Euros, with transfer breakdowns. And we're starting off with our very first transfer breakdown. And that is, of course, of the biggest club in London, let's say. And that is the mighty Chelsea. So we've got a great show planned for you today. Before we get into the Chelsea squad, let's dive a little bit into, well, first the last season, how it finished, and then go into Enzo Maresca, the new coach, and how we expect him to set up. Now, Chelsea, of course, did finish 6th in the Premier League. They did have and you'll have to fact check me on this, 3rd or 4th best form in 2024 in the Premier League, 4th. Yeah, which, really did give way to that rise up from bottom half, 10th on average for the first half of the season, all the way to 6th. Of course, they did qualify for the Europa League through the Premier League finish, but Manchester United's FA Cup win did push Chelsea down into the Conference League. A shock decision to part ways with Pochettino. I just don't think many, fans certainly and outsiders to Chelsea like myself expected that move, and in came Enzo Maresca. So right before we touch on Maresca, any thoughts on the Chelsea season, or is it just hard to think about the season that's passed because of the managerial change?
Well, I think as a fan, especially as a Chelsea fan, you just got to be used to the change. We're used to changing managers. Under Abramovich, this was common. I guess under Abramovich it made a bit more sense. This one doesn't really make sense whatsoever. I can see that Egbali was kind of the one driving this change from everything I've read. Bowley apparently wanted him to stay. And yeah, we had a great end to the season, and it made me kind of forget. We won, I think, 2 or maybe 1 match out of our first 6 of the year. We had a horrendous beginning to the year, but a great end. So hopefully Maresca can take that momentum and make it his own.
Yeah. And right on that note, let's dive into Enzo Maresca. Of course, he was just the coach of Leicester, who finished top of the championship and will be coming back into the Premier League next season. Give me a quick breakdown of the tactics you expect Maresca to employ at Chelsea.
So he uses a very interesting and not unorthodox, because it's becoming more common, let's say, but his 4-3-3 is really interesting, right? So you'll have in possession, he'll have a fullback tuck into the midfield. He'll have the 2 8s push forward and kind of join the wingers. The wingers can tuck in or stay wide. But that fullback has to be really positionally aware, amazing on the ball, kind of like what Cucurella was doing this year, interestingly enough. It's almost like Poch saw this coming. I think Moises Caicedo, who had a fantastic end of the season, is going to be more important than ever. The question is, who are the 2 8s going to be? Now, Enzo Fernandez is pretty much guaranteed to be there, being the massive signing that he is. You'd think Conor Gallagher would be a great fit. I've seen a lot of pages, Chelsea fan pages there, that is, put Cole Palmer there, interestingly enough, as a sort of box-to-box 10 hybrid. And then the wingers basically have to either stay wide and win their one-on-ones or themselves become kind of 10s like they were under Thomas Tuchel. And then the 9 has to be able to drop in. Basically, what Enzo Maresca wants to do is create a 4v3 overload in midfield. He does that by having that fullback tuck in and those 3 midfielders, so that if they have 3 midfielders like most teams do, let's say a fullback or a centre half has to jump out of position, creating one-on-ones or just creating space.
Yeah, I think great breakdown there, and especially his philosophy of wanting to have that outnumbering in midfield is central to why he has that fullback tuck in, and the other one stay more in a 3 at the back in build up. He mentioned he actually has a pretty great segment on the coach's voice breaking down these tactics, and it's not just for the defensive solidity of the extra man in back, but it really is about that overload against a variety of formations. In that segment, he actually went through how they match up on a 4-3-3, on a 4-2-2, 4-2-3-1. So inverted fullback is not really a new thing now in 2024, but it is becoming more and more common as managers seek to control that middle ground. It kind of, when I watched that video too, it kind of also reminded me of maybe a newer trend is a lot of teams are employing like that box midfield, and that seems to have a lot of success. I think Arsenal use it very successfully. Aston Villa actually use it very successfully. So you could say, at least on the outlook from his tactics, he is at the cutting edge of what's being done at the game here. So I'm sure we'll get into his tactics a little more as we go through the squad, but give me your thoughts on the goalkeeping position for Chelsea heading into 24-25.
So let's start from far left. I thought that Robert Sanchez's days at Chelsea were done, but Maresca wants to keep him, so I guess we got to keep him. He believes a new phase in his career is coming. I don't know how, because he really wants a ball-playing goalkeeper. Sanchez, between him and Jordi, has the worst feet. I think he's a great goalkeeper. He's massive. He's like 6'5". He's great in the air, honestly. But to me, I thought we could cash out on him, but apparently we're keeping him. So that's that.
Mm-hmm. Sanchez, let me just ask you, why was the change made mid-season? Was it through injury that Petkovic took over?
Injury, and he was a bit shaky, honestly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was a bit shaky. He had a couple moments where I thought, you're just not up for it.
Mm-hmm. That was my overwhelming sense. I'm assuming this next brother here is Petkovic. Is that right?
No, that's Bettinelli.
Okay, that's Bettinelli. So we'll probably won't add him to the board here. But this one better be Petkovic.
That's Petrovic.
Petrovic. Damn, I'm all over the place with my goalkeepers, and that kind of ties into my point. It's like, who are these no-name keepers at Chelsea? Right? It's a club associated very strongly in the Premier League era with the best keepers in the world. If you think of a decade of Petr Cech and then Thibaut Courtois taking over for 2 titles really there under both Mourinho and Conte, for that to come to Sanchez and Petrovic, but I mean, does it even matter really with the names? What do you think about Petrovic, and then just generally for the goalkeeping position for Chelsea?
Well, I really like how you bring up Courtois. I think the club didn't really recover when he basically forced his way out. We panic-buyed Kepa.
Mm-hmm.
Kepa's a disaster. And
Kepa is still employed by Chelsea, isn't that right?
Yeah, he's got 1 more year left on his contract. We couldn't get rid of him. We tried to offload him to Madrid and hope for something. Lunin ended up starting over him, so don't know what to say there. So I guess it was, again, a bit of a panic buy, because we did have a great season under Mendy when we won the Champions League, and he was the goalkeeper of the year, the UEFA goalkeeper of the year. Mm-hmm. His form kind of vanished. I don't know what happened there. So we kind of panicked by buying Sanchez and Petrovic. I really like Petrovic, actually. He's quite young. I think he's only 23 still, which in goalkeeping years is incredibly young. He might as well be 16 if you're an outfield player. He came from the MLS. A lot of MLS fans told me good things about him, so I'm actually not too upset.
Do you think he starts over Sanchez?
Yeah, I think so. We have Gabriel Slonina on loan. I think he might be the future because he as a teenager is a phenom. But time will tell. I don't think we need to buy a goalkeeper. We have
Mhm.
so many. I think it'd be counterproductive.
Yeah, that's a good point. A great point to end on. Because we'll talk about positions of need, but I see your point there. It is a crowded room with still some mystery boxes, right? Given the youth of some of these players. So let's move on to the center back position. Um, give me the guys that you are certain, or at least you would like to be at Chelsea and be key players.
We don't have Tosin up on this chart because he's not been
Mm.
officially unveiled. He might have been today. I'm not sure actually. I had a busy day myself at work. Um, but honestly, I think all of them can kind of stay. The only one I'm kind of iffy on is Axel Disasi, who ironically is the first one in line. But we'll put him in anyway. Badia Shield as well, right there. He had a kind of a down season. He had some good performances towards the end. He was much better last year. I think we have to keep Trevor Chalobah. I think his ball playing ability will be crucial under Maresca. He's a Chelsea boy, a Jehovah's Witness. He's a good man. He's a good lad. We have to keep him. Levi Colwill, very much the same. Pretty much the same as Chalobah, but left-footed. Chelsea boy himself. And who does that leave us with? Oh, Wesley Fofana, who missed the
Mm.
entire season due to ACL injury. So those five plus Tosin, I mean, that's six quality center halves. You can definitely sell one of them just for profit. I just don't know which one that would be.
Yeah, he caught Fafana there. Damn, honestly, what a shame because this kid, it's 2 years is a long time in football, but mainly in the current generation that we're in. But Wesley Fofana was one of the hottest prospects in the world while still at Leicester. Give me the starters, I guess, from this bunch. Let me move them right to the top.
Depending on Fofana's fitness and form, I think he has to start. He has the most potential.
Mhm.
Um, Him and Levi Colwill, I can see that being a cracking duo. And then you rotate in Chalobah because I think he's quality and he can play several places along the back line. He can play a right back as well. He can play as a six. And then Disasi and Badia, sure, you got some work to do, lads. That's what I say.
Yeah, well, maybe this will be a conversation for a little later on. Chalaba, I think, is the interesting one, and someone that's been linked with moves away. Is that true? I think there's some truth to it, but or is that newspapers kind of understanding that selling academy players is better under PSR rules because they count as pure profit? I don't know because it definitely sounds like you rate Trevor Chalaba maybe more so than Disasi or Badiashile.
Well, we've got a new lad come in. We've got Bashir Humphreys coming back from loan from the Championship, who did great. So it does get a little crowded back there. You can start to see why we were okay with leading Thiago Silva go. We're going to
Mhm.
miss his leadership. Love Thiago Silva to death. I'm not going to sing the song, but what a legend the guy is. Loves the club. But to get back on point, yeah, we have a fair amount of centre halves. So maybe
Yeah.
it's an issue of just having too many.
I see that. I'm just gonna toss Thiago Silva in because he is, I mean, first of all, a legend of the game, in spite of my allegiances, but also to represent Tosin in the squad chart because at least one thing's for sure, we'll know that Tosin will be at Chelsea at center back next year. So I'll have to remember to put a little text over there so it doesn't get too confusing. But that, yeah, crowded room again, maybe similar to the goalkeeper conversation. You almost don't want to make any moves because there's still a lot of potential that could be had from again a mystery box kind of set. So with that, let's go to the. I almost said running back. I've been, fantasy football has been on the mind, but I feel like I'm just gonna go ahead and put the guys in here for now.
That's easy. This is the
Like
easiest position
it's
of the entire
it's
pitch.
the
They're both
easiest.
elite.
They're both elite. So I think where I want to go with this conversation here, and you know what? Let me just put. I'm gonna put Cucurella and Ben Chilwell. Are there any other fullbacks? Should I toss Alfie Gilchrist in there?
Well, he's going on loan, so
Okay.
100%. So
All
let
right.
the lad develop.
So let's just put those four fullbacks that are currently at the club there, because what I want to tie this back to is Maresca's tactics with the inverted fullback and with one of the fullbacks, more so sitting deep. Looking looking at the squad, and there's undeniable quality there. I think Chelsea have two of the top five right backs in the Premier League right now. I mean, maybe even top three. Really, there's maybe a dearth of top level right backs in the Premier League, given with Kyle Walker falling off a little bit. But which of these players seem like they would fit the inverted midfielder role? Which of these players feel like they could fit the center back role? I guess what I'm struggling to reconcile, especially with the two right backs, is they're very attacking. Their strengths are in the final third. Their strengths are putting the ball in the box and beating players. And is that role almost not going to be there in Maresca, the setup that Maresca has used in the past?
It's a great question, Rahul. I don't really know, honestly. We saw Cucurella, like I mentioned earlier,
Mm-hmm.
be in that inverted fullback role. Obviously, Malo Gusto is incredible going forward. Reece James did come up as a six for most of his youth career, so he could definitely fit in there. Obviously, we love him down the wing, pinging in balls to the center forward. We saw him when he came back, immediately got an assist. He's incredible, in my opinion. He's our captain for a reason. Let's just pray to whatever God you believe in, or deity, or whatever it may be, that he stays healthy. Please, I will do anything. But to get back on track, yeah, I don't know. I feel like we're almost better off with Cucurella being in that box midfield, even though Reece makes more sense, just so Reece can maybe have a little opportunity to get forward, or Malo Gusto to get forward. What's for sure, though, is I don't see Ben Chilwell being in that box midfield role, because he was used as a winger at times for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hearing a couple. I love Chile. I love him to death. Love the guy. Love the player. I really hope we keep him. I hear that we might be getting rid of him, though, because of his health concerns.
Yeah, Chol has had quite the fall off. Of course, suffered a pretty brutal ACL tear not too long ago. But it seemed almost that his skill set was very limited to that, attacking fullback. That's kind of where we saw his best football, and really the only good football he's put together at Chelsea. I think you're spot on with the Reece James assessment. He is the most technical of those players. He's probably got the physique most suited to midfield duels. Of course, his health is a whole different question. What I actually like even a little more is in that role, you could see Reece James putting a lot of those deeper crosses you see from where Trent and KDB actually put the ball in. They're rarely at the byline, and that would suit, the whip that Reece James definitely gets on the ball. Malo Gusto almost feels like the odd one out, because he really does do his best work in the wider areas, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he's a classic fullback. He just gets down the wing so well. He was incredible for us. I love the guy. He's so young.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, let him do whatever he wants. I'm so glad he's getting most of the summer off. Let him enjoy. I love the boy to death. He was honestly, when times were really tough over winter, he brought so much joy to me. I'm literally getting goosebumps just thinking about him. I love Malo so much. It makes me so sad that one of them has to sit because they play
Mm-hmm.
the same position. I mean, him and Reece James.
Yeah, two absolute class players. The last kind of scenario I'll bring up on this set of players. Could you see Levi Colwill actually end up being a starting left back, especially now when you consider that 3-2 setup where one fullback tucks in, one gets to the midfield? Could Colwill actually be a surprise option? He already is kind of that wider center back. It might be a perfect fit while solving an absence of left backs and a surplus of center backs in a way.
Yeah, I think that's an idea, although I prefer him to be a centre half. That's what he is at his core. There
Mm-hmm.
were times he kind of struggled with his positioning. And I think he's so young, you can't confuse young players. You have to set a young player up for success. And in this case, you need him to play centre half, in my opinion, just so he can become the elite prospect he seems to be.
Yeah, that's a good and that's a fair answer, honestly. Well, it'll be very interesting to see, especially with that aspect of his system. It'll be interesting to see how the defense goes. But Chelsea, of course, made a lot of additions in the last, especially under the Bowley reign, to that side
I have
of the
one more
field.
question though. I have one more
Mhm.
question though. Do you know who that third guy is in from the first row on the left? Is
Bro.
that Malang Sarr? Who is that? Who is that? Even Pochettino doesn't know who he is.
I let me just ask my assistant. Can us help? Can us
I
help?
think it's horrible what we've done to him. That's actually decently quality. Hurt his knee while on loan in Monaco. Not this past season, but the season before. We were going to let him go, I think, to Brest or something.
Mm.
And I just hope we either get 5 million quid for him or just let the guy go. He's actually quite highly paid as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just in the sheer number of incomings, in stockpiling all this talent, unfortunately, you're left with a lot of situations like that. And poor Malang Sarr has been caught on that side. But that unfortunately is a reality of the modern game. And Chelsea are not the first club to have done that. Chelsea are not the only club to have done that, or will they continue to be the only clubs doing that? But that was the back five, and let me actually just flip back the midfield and attack. We set it up CDM and CM based on the 4-3-3 we expect Maresca to run. And I think CDM 6 really is my position of interest for Chelsea. How do you see that playing out next year?
Well, we basically get a new signing in Romeo Lavia. The guy barely played last year. He played, I think, 30 odd minutes all year due to two injuries, the quad injury and I think it was quad injury each time.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to be like a new signing. Maresca's already worked with him. I see him having a banger of a season. Moises Caicedo really worried me at the beginning of the year. I didn't take into account that he was playing right back the year before. He looked kind of lost and isolated due to the fact that Enzo Fernandez, as good of a tackler as he is, he doesn't cover the most ground. Um, Enzo also had a hernia injury basically all year. So he's obviously a stay at center mid.
Mm-hmm.
He, on his day, like the Liverpool match, opening game of the season, can be just mind blowing. I was salivating watching it on my stream. Um, be it illegal or not, I don't know. Um,
We
so
don't endorse any of that.
no, we don't endorse it. No promotions, no nothing. VIP. But I think that already, I mean, that's amazing. Leslie
Let me
Uguchukwu.
actually before you get too far in, let me stay here because I think especially with Casado and Enzo is again as an someone who doesn't follow Chelsea as closely, hasn't watched as much Chelsea as you have. Do you think? Okay, I have a few questions really to organize this, and feel free to tackle in whichever order. Do you think Casado and or Enzo can play as that in that sitting role? It may end up being a two with the fullback tucking in and still turn into a double pivot, but do you think either of them can play that role? Or are they better suited as eights without that burden?
Well, I think Moises can do anything. He towards the end of the season, man, he was sensational. Enzo, I think it's kind of hard to judge him because he was. There were times I was looking at him and I was thinking, why are you not moving as well as you should be? And that's because he had a hernia injury the whole year, and he had a newborn child. Enzo had a lot going on last year. Maybe it's because I'm a Chelsea fan and have a bit of blind faith, but I really think they can. I think there's a reason why we paid so much. Obviously, it's an outrageous sum of money, but I do think they're both so class that, yeah, they can do anything on their day.
I hear that. I definitely hear that. Again, someone not as connected and definitely didn't watch all the minutes. One thing that stood out to me about maybe the Enzo Maresca coming in process is it sounded like he presented the leadership group the very clear plan of what he wanted to do with Enzo Fernandez. And that was something that was a huge plus point in his column. I mean, 200 million midfielders. If I was playing Football Manager right now, they would be the first two signings I'd have in the door for any club, and I wouldn't have to add to that midfield again for the next decade. Right? It's such a perfect combination of all the skills you'd want, the profiles you'd want to have, and we just didn't see it enough last year. Both in their first year and a half for Enzo Fernandez. But a lot of potential. And I think maybe for the purpose of this conversation for now, definite stays and likely starters in the next season. I also cut you off in the last segment because I have no clue which one of these is the guy you're about to bring up.
I think, that's Leslie Ugochukwu. He is going on loan apparently, so he's another defensive mid.
Mm,
He's 6'4", big lad, only 19, but I think he's the only one that we're allowing to go to the Olympics,
mm,
meaning he's going to miss a lot of preseason, meaning he might not be in the immediate plans. And of course, we have Trevor Chalobah. We have a couple guys that can fill in to that CDM role. So I'm not too concerned about that. Carney Chukwuemeka. These Chelsea names are pretty intense. If you don't, you get caught out pretty easily if you don't watch Chelsea.
that last one was insane.
Chukwuemeka, he is. I think he's
This one
incredible.
is Chukwuemeka. There's no
Oh,
N.
really? I thought
Yeah,
it was
Chukwuemeka.
Chukwuemeka. I mean,
No.
he got hurt a lot, so he Carnes, as we call him as the Chelsea fans, Carnes, he's incredible. I think he can play as a 10, he can play as a winger, he can play in the midfield. Big lad, strong lad, can do a lot of things for your team. I think he has to stay. I think he's incredible. The biggest issue in the midfield now is what's going to happen to Conor Gallagher. Now, Conor Gallagher has his flaws. He
Let me put it
he had a sensational season. Let's be very honest. He was incredible. I think he played the most minutes for us. He's got an engine like no other. He is proper Chelsea. That's why he wore the armband so much. I love him so much. He's also, if I do say so myself, a stunning, dashing lad. We need him. I'm ready to write or to drive to London from California to beg the owners to keep him. But I really feel
I'm just trying to validate your statement that he is a dashing lad. Well, that was a terrible first picture to
no,
come
go
up
to the
on.
England one. He looked so good the other day. Yeah, against Bosnia, I was telling my girlfriend, isn't he the most beautiful man you've ever seen? He is. Like he's dashing. Look at him. He's got a
Oh,
world class smile. He can be serious. He can be smiley. He can do whatever he needs to be. He is.
and
If he wasn't a footballer, he'd be a supermodel, mate. He is. He's the man. I love Conor Gallagher. I hope this is not the part that goes viral. He's the man.
it,
I love him. I love him.
that was great. That's for the engagement farming there. But unfortunately, as it sounds like from the rumor mill, he will be a casualty of Chelsea's need to get even with the sustainability rules PSR. And given that he is an academy player, he would be pure profit, and he is quite a valuable player as well. I'd expect something in the 40 million pound range, less than Mason Mount, I'd probably say, but 40 to 50 million pound.
50 plus, mate. Are you kidding me? That boy. I hear Villa wants him. I hear Spurs want him.
Mm,
He walks into those lineups, and it'll break my heart, even more so than losing Mount, honestly.
mm. Well, on that note, did we miss any center
Uh,
mids? Or...
Cesare Casadei, there you've got him. I think we keep him. He actually was on loan to Leicester before we did
Mm,
the typical FIFA call him back because we have too many injuries. FIFA manager mode, that is. EAFC manager mode. Rest in peace, FIFA. He has loads of quality. He's a big lad. He would often be thrown on in the end of game just because of his size for us to defend and hold leads. There's some player in there. Last summer, he was incredible playing for the Italy under 21s.
Player of the tournament, right?
Yeah, player of the tournament. He had like 5 goals. But then the issue becomes Andre Santos, who we don't have on this list as well. He was incredible for Strasbourg. So there's a bit of a logjam once again. This is what happens when you stockpile talent.
A lot, yeah. A lot of young talent, which has been the MO. And, if this were a game, you get the guys with a high potential and they'll work out. But unfortunately, that's not how the real life works. There's a little too much fat with this the Chelsea squad. There's, Todd Bowley's been a very gluttonous man, shall we say, trying to do his Walmart Florentino Perez impression, stockpiling these young talents. But let's go on to the front three of this Maresca's 4-3-3. I'm just gonna put the man himself. Really the easiest pick of this entire.
Lisan Gaib.
Indeed, Lisan Al Gaib. Indeed, Cole Palmer himself. We don't really need to say too much. We spent enough time on him last time. This is the guy. I guess maybe one point to dig in a little bit on is you've been hearing rumblings of him maybe fitting in the midfield as one of those free 8/10s. Do you think that would maximize his skill set, or he needs to be a little closer to goal?
I think he needs to be as close to goal as possible. I kind of like the idea of him playing as a 10, but he's so effective just coming off that wing. But at the same time, Cole Palmer, do as you want, mate. You're my hero. I might get a Cole Palmer face tattoo somewhere on my leg. He brought me so much joy this year. The amount of times my girlfriend's been like, "Why are you yelling?" It's because of Cole Palmer, because he scores a banger. He helped us beat Manchester United for the first time in years. So
all right. First time in quite I was shocked actually.
7 years. Yeah, you told me that actually. I remember it was like 6-7 years.
In the Premier League, and I think the Chelsea FA Cup win in the COVID season wasn't included. But yeah, honestly, a shocking record, really. Let's go to the rest of the. We can kind of alternate between right and left wing as you please. Take me through the other wider attackers at Chelsea.
I think Noni Madueke would start easily if not for Cole Palmer. I think he's quality as well on the left wing. That's where we run into a bit of trouble. We have Mikhailo Mudryk and Raheem Sterling, who on their day are both quality, but they're both just so inconsistent. It drives me absolutely nuts. So that's that. And then up front, you have the guy who drives me the most nuts in the entire world, Nicholas Jackson, who can score a banger, but can also literally whiff the ball. He reminds me very much so of me in my playing days. Either you have a quality performance or you're just horrendous. No in between. To be fair, I'm being a bit harsh on him. His hold-up play is excellent. The lines he runs are excellent. It's just his finishing he needs to work on. And honestly, again, maybe some blind fan optimism. I do think he can figure that out. Now, is he the guy, like I said last week, to win you the league, to win you the Champions League? I don't know. But I know that Christopher Nkunku might be that man. Because Nkunku, oh my God, he is so quality. Towards the end of the season, he really came back with a bang. He scored I think he scored a brilliant goal. I forget against who, because I kind of try to forget this past season. But he's amazing. And then we got David Washington, the young lad who's not too shabby himself.
Which brother is this?
Yeah, that's Diego Moreira on the left. David Washington, the 19-year-old, he was banging goals in the PL too. He might have a bright future, but much like David Datro Fofana, I think he has to go on loan. That's not Fofana.
Is that not?
No, that's Richards.
Oh man,
he Moreira, and we kind of skipped over him, but Leo Castledine, the guy with the nice curly hair.
I have literally never heard of any of these players.
Well, they're youth players. They're young lads. They should just go on loan. But he's actually a midfielder. He's a 10/8.
I'm gonna
So
take them out for
yeah, take them out. Take them out.
to
And
avoid my embarrassment.
honestly, you
Really.
can take out David Washington too. I just want to hype him up a bit because I see a bright future in him. But this is pretty much what we're gonna set up with.
Right.
These 12 players are the midfield/front line. You can argue that we need another winger. You can argue you need another center forward. You can definitely argue we need another center forward. But I guess we'll get to that in the next segment.
Yeah. I mean, great breakdown. A lot to cover there. I think where I just want to quickly touch on to emphasize Nicholas Jackson is he really was the first player to score a hat trick and deservedly not get the Man of the Match award. And that pretty much says it all. I think, yeah, though he could get better at finishing, which is one of the hardest things to get better, but, he could get better. He doesn't strike me as a 20-plus PL goal a season striker, and that's really what you need. Unless, damn, it's interesting because he would fit in with what we talked about. Maresca wanted the center forward to be adept at dropping into midfield and linking in play. He emphasized it in the coach's voice video as well. And that aspect of his game is honestly at an elite level for the Premier League, but hard to see. I wanted to next go on to Nkunku because I was actually very curious of what position you would have put him on the list. Do you think there's a case for him to actually be a left winger in the next year if a striker signing does come in?
Well, yeah, it's exactly as you're saying it. If a striker comes in, you move him to the left wing. But considering our needs and considering the way Maresca wants to play, right now he's our center forward. Now, that's not his best position. He's better coming off the left. But as of now, that's where you got to keep him because we don't have anyone else apart from.
Yeah,
Jackson.
that's a good point. We'll get on the next the tab where we go through the cells because there are there are fewer names here than in the defensive half of the field, but there are some names I think you touched on, like Noni Madueke, Mudryk, of course. Sterling is a tough case because he's near the end of his career. But with Madueke and with Mudryk, especially with the outlay on Mudryk, just so frustratingly inconsistent. Absolute moments players. I was just seeing a tweet before we went on air about how Madueke will be one of those streets won't forget players because he has a banging array of goals, even just this season at Chelsea. But do you think they could be longer term contributors? And let me put it this way. One concern I have about both of them, really, Madueke, maybe more publicly so, is the attitude with the penalty issues. I won't even go into the Poch fallout thing, but the penalty, trying to grab the penalty off Cole Palmer, that really didn't shine a great light on his character. Mudryk, it's not as, public as that, but there are a lot of things you see on social media of him that maybe don't speak to the strongest character. Do you think they can be longer term contributors to, the future of this Chelsea side, or are they actually on the line and maybe have a little less leeway than maybe we gave them a little earlier?
I chalk it off for them just being young lads. I mean, they're so young. You remember what you were like at uni or college, as they say in this country. You're a bit of a goon, you're a bit of a clown.
Mm-hmm.
These are young guys. I mean, obviously I'm a bit biased, but I do think they have a great future. They have some intangibles that you rarely see. Mudryk speed, incredible,
Yeah.
Mbappe-esque. Noni, when he's on the ball, I rarely see someone bully him off the ball. He is so strong. Those legs are Saquon-like. He is so good at keeping the ball and just muscling his way by people, and he's quite fast himself. That left foot is incredible as well, as you just mentioned. So I actually do see a future for them. I think, if anything, the odd man out would be Raheem. He's the veteran in the group. I mean, all these guys are, younger than 24. They're all so young. Younger. I mean, I think they're all like 23, 22.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you might need that leadership from Sterling. But if we bring in another winger, I think he's the first one to leave because he's also on the highest wages.
Yeah, good point. And fair points about both Madueke and Mudryk there. Just to pose the question, I think, not just being at one of the most widely talked about clubs, teams, country, world, but to be in a team that for the first 18 months of both of their stay has been a majority pretty tough environment to be at. So I think fair to excuse those kinds of issues that I brought up. So let's move on to the next tab, and I think this will tie it back together for us very well. We're gonna go to more of a keep sell kind of view. So first, for the key player, based on the players that are currently at Chelsea right now, Tosin excluded because we don't have him up here. Give me your starting lineup for the first game of the season.
So Petrovic has to start for me. I rate him more than Sanchez. Let's see if Maresca agrees with me. Right back, I mean, I guess I got to put Reece. I love you, Malo Gusto.
Suspended, so he won't be in the lineup. But we're gonna put Reece James in there. He's the starting right back for Chelsea.
I completely just washed. I can't believe it. Yeah, I still can't believe he did that. But we'll forgive him. A lot of emotion probably coming back on his first match, first start. I don't even want to think about it. Then at the back, let's put at right centre half. Let's put Wesley Fofana. Then Levi Colwill. Left centre half. Sorry, Tosin might feature in there. We don't know. Preseason will tell. Left back, let's put Mark Cucurella. Unless Romeo Lavia has an incredible preseason, it's going to be the main man, Moises Caicedo at the back. Let's just assume that the Chelsea handsome man, Prince Charming, is going to stay. So Conor Gallagher going to be there with Enzo Fernandez. In midfield as our 2 8s. Let's put Cole, Lisan Al-Gaib, Palmer on the right wing. On the left wing, let's just say Mudryk just tears it up in preseason. Maybe it's a bit hopeful of me, but I see him having a decent Euros. He was anonymous against Germany in the friendly the other day, but let's hope he's a bit better at the Euros. And up top, let's just put Christo Nkunku. I'm actually really happy the French didn't select him in their squad. He has the whole summer to recover, chill, maybe go on holiday, and prepare himself for a big season ahead.
Yeah. I think I pretty much agree with you there. I'd probably have, as it stands, and assuming Gallagher stays, I'd probably have Nkunku on the left and Jackson up front myself. But otherwise, no real disagreement with what you put forward there. Let's put the keep, but / development players on there. If you want to list them off.
So the 2 goalkeepers on the left there, Robert Sanchez and Marcus Bettinelli. I think he's a great number 3. He doesn't really play much, but might as well keep him. Axel Disasi. I feel like the first City match he was incredible. Maybe the second City match, I thought he was so good. So on his day, he can be that guy. Badia Shield at times has been incredible, so we got to keep him as well. Trevor Chalobah, of course, I want to keep him. Might lose him, but that's life.
I'm gonna leave him off for now because I think.
Okay, sure. Chile, I think we got to keep him. I love Chile so much as a man. Everything. I love his Instagram, and I'm not gonna fangirl. Who else does that leave us?
Malo like Chilwell today.
Oh, really? That is such a compliment. Malo Gusto, of course, has to stay. Who else does that leave us? Okay, I guess that's enough for the defenders. Cesare Cassidy has to stay. Lavia has to stay. Carnes has to stay. Apparently, I don't know how to say his name, which is really embarrassing.
Chukwuemeka.
I thought it was Chukwuemeka, but I've been saying it wrong the entire year, clearly. Who else does that leave us? Sterling, I think, stays. Unless we get someone, because then we're just short on the left wing. Noni has to stay. Nico Jackson stays as well. And then the rest, you either sell or loan.
Yeah. Loan. Yeah, honestly, a loan category would have been great. We'll keep that in mind for future transfer breakdown videos. I guess there are a few names that I want to see if they fit into those other categories. We'll start with Trevor Chalobah. Why I think He could be a sell for value. And I mean, I for this discussion right now, and we'll come to a conclusion. Let me slide CG in there as well.
Breaking my
Do you
heart.
do you what is the figure that Chelsea need to raise this summer?
Apparently, it was 100 million pounds. Sorry.
Mm.
We do have quite a few players like Lukaku. Apparently, according to the almighty Fabrizio Romano, he has to be sold for 38 million pound. There will be no loans for once. He has to be sold. Thankfully, Antonio Conte is now the new Napoli manager. He really wants him, so hopefully that can work out. Kepa can be another great sale. Ian Matson, who made the
Mm.
Champions League 11 player of the season, he has a release clause of 35 million pound. I was hoping to get 40 because he's played really well for Dortmund. Who else do we have on loan? That's pretty much it, unless I'm forgetting anyone on loan. So that in of itself, that's already that's 73 million quid. You add Connor, that's 123 million quid,
Mm.
and you add Chalobah, who I think is worth 30 to 40. That's a lot of money already. So you've made the money you need, and you can potentially have a big money signing.
Do you, in your, putting aside the Chelsea fan glasses, do you think Gallagher? They're two separate entities, of course. Gallagher and or Chalaba will stay or go. If you had to call it right now.
My heart says they stay, but my mind says they go. I mean, we have an overload somewhat in midfield. I guess you could put Lavia in the 8, or you could
Mm.
put Moises in the 8 and drop Lavia in the 6. So you can get rid of Connor. You can definitely get rid of Trevor. I love him so much. I remember the first time he played for Chelsea and scored a banger from outside the box, like right on the line, I should say. So I do think we're going to end up selling them. The only thing I ask is that they get sold for a preposterous amount, like 80 million quid. Um, are they worth that? Well, not really, especially since Connor's in the last year of his deal. But I do think that unfortunately they end up going.
Yeah, I think maybe just for a complete list here, let me shift Nico Jackson up into the starting 11 because I think I would probably call both Gallagher and Chalaba leaving just from the messaging that you're kind of getting from the media. Um, I mean, a lot of these guys left over are really younger players. We had this whole, I went through extreme lengths to get this poo emoji on the screen. Are we gonna put anyone in this tier? Because not played, not devil's advocate or anything, but Chelsea, yes, they did finish 6th, but it was very dismal for large parts of the season. Are there any players that fit in that bottom tier?
Well, the only one that's really surplus to requirements that is not a youth player was Malang Sarr.
Mm.
We kind of banished him to the under 23 squad. Another one that kind of concerns me was Diego Moreira. He was
Got this guy.
yeah, that's him. That's him. He was kind of anonymous, didn't really do much, even in the youth teams. Signed him for a free, so might as well take a chance. But I could be completely wrong, of course. There's a reason why I don't work for Chelsea or work in football or became a footballer myself. I'm just a fan at the end of the day, so I could be wrong on him. I'm a bit harsh because what I saw in preseason was not the best. He had some moments, but he wasn't fantastic either, even in preseason. And then we never heard of him again. So that might tell you something. He might not have the level. And both of those guys were signed on a free. It was just an opportunistic, signing from
Mhm.
Chelsea. And the rest, I would just loan them out. I mean, maybe Sharman Lowe, actually, the goalkeeper. We have a surplus of goalkeepers, and he's never really done much. He's never really been loaned to
This
somewhere
guy here.
significant. I think the highest he ever went was League One, so you can get rid of him. Everyone else, I mean, Alfie Gilchrist, I think he has such a bright future. Unfortunately, he plays centre half. We play him at right back a lot, but he is a centre half. That's why we have loads of players. I could see him getting sold in the future. Leslie Ugochukwu, I might be pronouncing that wrong as well. I'm not very good with these names.
That's a
Nigerian names.
tough one.
Yeah, Ugochukwu, he has a lot of potential. He was hurt a lot. I think he gets loaned out as well. Leo Castledine as well. David Washington has to be loaned out. I think he needs some experience. And then Richards as well, I think. So that's a lot of loanees to have. But
I
I
guess a lot
think
of the, not to interrupt you there, but I guess it seems like a lot of the sales, based on what you said earlier, were not at Chelsea this year. Um,
exactly.
yeah, and I
That's
think
what I was going
that,
to say. The list is incomplete without them, really.
yeah.
We have to get rid of Romelu Lukaku. My blood boils at his name. I detest the man. No loyalty. He's one of the best defenders in the world in big moments. So get rid of him.
Yeah, yeah. I see that. So let's just quickly go back through the previous two tabs. Uh, First to go with the back five. Do you think Chelsea need to buy any players in the positions listed here on the screen?
Depending on how Maresca feels about Ben Chilwell, because that is something I've heard that he might be looking at a left back, his type of left back. Because Cucurella did come on this season and showed some good work. He was a bit of a disaster the season before. I think if he proves himself under Maresca, he'll be fine. Do we then have someone coming at left back to compete with him to elevate his level because we don't think Chilwell can do it anymore? Chilwell's a year older than us. We're both 27. He's only 28. So he's not like old or anything or washed up. He just has hamstring issues. We'll see where that goes. But honestly, I think that at the back, we're sorted. Everyone's young. Maybe get a veteran in there, but we already have too many centre halves.
I will just object and say that you were washed up and I am still in my prime at 26 and 11 months. No, I think I agree with you there. Backup left back. Backup left back, damn. I mean, I wonder if Malo Gusto could even push himself into the left back role because he is, the two right backs are the two best fullbacks of this team. So I think I kind of agree with you there. At least no priority signings this summer in the defensive positions. What about here with the front six, if you will?
If we sell Connor, do we then need another midfielder? Is Carney ready? Is Cesare ready? I don't know. Again, we could really benefit from a veteran presence in there. It just depends on what the manager wants. It's kind of hard to know when you get a new manager in. It's
Yeah.
like the chopping and turning and all that, whatever the term is, I forget, chopping and churning. It's kind of hard to keep up with as players. So hopefully they fit what the manager wants. I personally think we get rid of Sterling. Sterling had a couple moments this season where he was quality, but he's never really been that guy, especially when he's on £350,000 a week, which is preposterous. But again, he is that veteran presence I'm talking about that we need in other positions. I'm hearing Michael Olise, who we almost signed last summer, is of huge interest to the club. I could see us getting rid of Sterling to Saudi or wherever that may be and bringing him in. Benjamin Sesko is another name I keep hearing at center forward. I think that's the most pressing need, honestly. You need a 9 to really push Jackson and then push Nkunku back to the left wing where he kind of belongs.
If I'm Igbali right now, I'm on the phone to Napoli and saying 90 million plus Lukaku, give me Osimhen.
You really think that? I don't think that's the profile we're looking for. Can Osimhen?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Can he be that hold up man? I mean, just to go back to that video, I'll have to leave a link to that coach's voice interview because I actually really found it insightful. But often Maresca himself was bringing that 9 into midfield to emphasize how they would try and outnumber and play out of the back. So I think you're onto something with Osimhen. Is Sesko that profile of player?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think he is the guy. This is just what I'm hearing. Ironically, as you say that, we have played Cole Palmer as a false 9 before. Do we do that again and then just let the wingers run wild in this 3-2-4-1 formation? Or even if the wingers go up, it's a 3-2-2-3, the MW formation, a fantastic name, fantastic initials, I should say. I think that we have options, but it would be great to have another one. Is Benjamin Sesko that guy? I wasn't overly impressed when I watched clips of him. I know that everyone these days is looking at stats and whatnot. Chase Aldridge. But I think that you need to watch the match and see with your own eyes how the player fits into a squad and a team and a style of play. I don't know if Sesko is that guy. I don't know if Victor Osimhen is that guy because he's basically an elite version of Jackson with hold-up play that is arguably not as good. I know. I mean, what do you think? Who would you picture as a 9 for Chelsea? Because that's really a tough question, in my opinion.
That's a very difficult question. Looking at that profile, I mean, arguably when you're shopping at that kind of tier, you're still getting the guy in, regardless of him being the perfect fit. I think one name, maybe on the cheaper end, so maybe he doesn't fit that mold of 20 plus goals, is Joshua Zirkzee at Bologna. Played that role to a T last season, right? That's exactly what this guy did and what he excelled at. So that's, I mean, you just a toss a name that I haven't seen been linked to Chelsea, but if I'm loading this team up in FIFA, I'm probably running 4-3-3 false 9. I'm getting Palmer at false 9 and Kunku or Mudryk cutting in off the left, and then Michael Olise, as you've been mentioning, heavily linked to Chelsea now. We'll see where he ends up going because it does seem like there's a whole host of clubs after him. But no doubt it will be a very exciting summer for Chelsea, as it is for the European market, especially in a competition summer, double competition summer, really. We're going to get a huge wave of news coming in, a little bit delayed from now. Any last words on this exercise in the Chelsea squad or transfer targets before we sign off?
Blue is the color, football is the game. That's all I need to say. Yeah. We're all together and winning is all right.
You heard it here first, folks. But that was our Chelsea squad breakdown. I had a blast doing it. Of course, with Olan. Always a good time chopping up with you. Any quick words for the viewers before we sign off tonight? Thank you all for staying in with us for hour 10, and more of a marathon than I thought. It might end up an hour. Any last words before we sign off for the night?
I mean, I love this club more than anything. I pray that we figure it out. I don't think in all my years I've ever seen such disarray in the club. 2 years without a trophy has been horrendous. Losing these finals have been horrendous. But with Chelsea, we'll figure it out. And I can only put blind faith in my club.
That's all we can do in a lot of facets in our lives that are out of our control, but especially so in sport. I think sport is really a microcosm of that, and we try to use it to escape our lives, but we end up investing a lot in things that are so far out of our control. But that's like the beauty of the game. But I mean, I really had, as I said, I had a great time doing this episode, especially because I think this is one where you, especially in this situation, can add a lot of color. We'll get into a whole host of topics, but doing a Chelsea squad dive and a United squad dive coming up soon too. I think these will be some of our better episodes as we get the 1-2 off the ground. But that's been the show. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.